Brazil's Energy Production and Consumption by Abby Lindsey, Austin Brocato, and Kyle Pagan. In this report, we will be covering the energy background of Brazil, ethanol, pre-salt reserves, natural gas, gasoline, hydroelectricity, thermal generation, and nuclear power. Brazil is located on the continent of South America. It is the 9th largest energy consumer in the world. Brazil's economy expanded over the past decade, and as a result, energy consumption has tripled. Aside from being a major energy consumer, Brazil is also a major producer of ethanol. Offshore drilling accounts for 90% of Brazil's oil production, and it renders the main product of crude oil. Recent discoveries of pre-salt oil reserves off the southeast coast of Brazil are estimated to contain more than 50 billion barrels of oil. These pre-salt reserves have the potential to turn the country into one of the world's top oil producers. Brazil also has a large amount of gas reserves, but it is neither produced nor consumed as much in comparison to ethanol and crude oil due to domestic factors. In addition to oil production and consumption, Brazil uses different methods of electricity to power their country. Among these methods include hydroelectricity, thermal generation, and nuclear power.
Some Brazilian oil companies include Petrobras, Brocato, Comgas, OGX, Synergy Group, Transpetro, and Ultrapar.
Brazil is the second largest ethanol producer worldwide. In 2011, an unsuccessful sugarcane harvest in Brazil decreased drastically in ethanol production. Ethanol is an alcohol fuel that is made from plant materials such as sugarcane and corn. According to the United States Environmental Protection Agency, alcohol fuels derived from sugar reduce the amount of carbon emissions from petroleum by up to 3/5 and by half of ethanol derived from corn. Behind fuel, alcohol fuels in Brazil are now its most important source of energy. The consumption and production of ethanol and gasoline ultimately affects the people of Brazil. When ethanol is used in gasoline, it lowers carbon monoxide emissions. The lower carbon monoxide emissions help to prevent global warming and cleanse the air that we breathe. As a result, many countries are working to develop new technology that utilizes new biofuel sources. Similarly, Brazil is investing the technology to discover a biofuel that is created from cellulose and plant stalks. However, cellulose is difficult to break down and ferment. This technology is important as it will yield double fuel hectare, which is approximated at 100 acres. No biofuel is projected to compete with sugarcane until at least 2050, but new technologies are necessary in order to keep the environment clean. Lately, Brazil has experienced shortages of ethanol. The Brazilian government has begun to take measures to prevent future shortages in ethanol with an increase in the involvement of the public dealing with the sector. The amount of ethanol blended with the gasoline has also been lowered from 25:1 to 20:1 in order to compensate with the decreased rate of ethanol production. Brazil will continue to depend on their domestic sales, and Petrobras, the biggest consumer for ethanol, until the ethanol market grows. Although Brazil has dealt with complications concerning ethanol production, they have uncovered pre-salt oil reserves that could change the country and economy drastically.
Petrobras has found pre-salt reserves at great depths in the Atlantic Ocean. A pre-salt reserve is a layer of rock that is capable of holding oil that was formed in history below a thick layer of salt. This discovery gives oil companies hope that the world still has big pools of oil ready to be discovered. There have been multiple discoveries of these pre-salt reserves. Some of these are the Jupiter discovery, the Carriacou discovery, the Sugarloaf discovery, the Caramba discovery, and the Tupi discovery. Some believe that these reserves could hold up to 100 million barrels of oil and natural gas. The discovery of pre-salt reserves leads to exploration of different technologies that are more resistant to corrosion and to high temperatures and pressures. The corrosion is due to high levels of carbon dioxide and hydrogen sulfide present in the pre-salt environment. As a result of carbon dioxide and hydrogen sulfide being present, there are high demands of specialized cement and metallurgy to extract oil. The pre-salt layer is segregated from the post-salt layer by another irregular salt layer with a thickness that ranges from 1,000 to 2,000 meters. The penetration rates of these type of wells are low, which brings the difficulty of drilling in salt and the need for precise and accurate directional control. As of now, Brazil does not have the proper technology and capability to achieve economical and operational success, but they are working with many companies such as Halliburton to develop the pre-salt wells. Although they have the technology to drill these wells, they wouldn't make many profits off the job if they did. According to Petrobras, the average time to drill a pre-salt well is equivalent to 66% of the average time taken to drill a well in 2006 and 2007. The amount of drilling time is a big factor for the financial success of the well. As a result, it needs to be reduced as much as possible. Rigs that are drilled in the pre-salt layer need to figure out how to increase their daily production. The expenses of the company decrease as the drill time decreases. Considering the fact that most drilling rigs are leased, the longer you have to drill, the longer you lease the rig. In return, the more money you spend on that well. Over the next decade, companies like Petrobras are going to continue to improve their production of oil from pre-salt layers in order to make more money off of each well. Aside from oil, another source of energy that is not nearly as important to Brazil, extracted from pre-salt layers, is natural gas.
Brazil consumes a very small portion of natural gas. This is more of a recent trend, as gas production has increased slowly despite Brazil's large amount of natural gas reserves. This is due to the lack of domestic transportation capacity and the low domestic prices of natural gas. In a reservoir, you can have different hydrocarbons, gases, and water, meaning while Brazil is producing oil, they are also producing natural gas. A dominant role that is played in Brazil's natural gas supply chain is Petrobras. The company controls the majority of the reserves holding natural gas and is responsible for most of the domestic Brazilian gas production. They are also responsible for gas imports to Bolivia. The oil field that Brazil obtains most of its natural gas from is in the Campos Basin, located in southeast Brazil. The production occurs offshore, unlike in the Amazon and the Bahia states, which produce natural gas for the locals of those states to consume. Petrobras has taken necessary measures in order to transport natural gas around the country by implanting over 4,000 miles of pipelines throughout the country. Most of these different pipeline systems have been connected. This has held back the development of the production and consumption of natural gas. Gassine, one such pipeline, solved this problem in March of 2010. Gassine covers a total distance of 1,037 kilometers in Brazil. This pipeline was made in order to connect the southeast and the northeast pipelines. Brazil imports natural gas from Bolivia, which is then transported from the southeast part of Brazil to the northeastern states where it is regasified. The pipeline was built as part of the Growth of Acceleration Program. This program was implemented in order to help the progression of Brazil's infrastructure. Brazil also has a strong electric industry, ranking in third largest in the Western Hemisphere.
Generation of electricity in Brazil is very strong, with three major sources helping to power the country: hydroelectricity, thermal generation, and nuclear power. Hydroelectricity is the main contributor of power in Brazil. Hydroelectricity accounted for 85% of electricity generation in 2010. Hydropower is generated by the gravitational force of falling or flowing water. It is an inexpensive method to generate electricity. Although hydroelectricity is a very inexpensive and convenient source of energy, it can potentially harm the environment. In order to produce this energy via water, rivers must be dams, which may harm ecosystems in the long run. The construction of dams can also displace wildlife and small communities. However, once the complex has been constructed, there are no more direct wastes produced, and very low levels of greenhouse gases are released, unlike fossil fuel plants. Brazil is trying to stray away from this source of electricity production because of the supply shortages as a result of droughts in the past. Brazil has other sources of energy that they have been using to produce electricity.
Thermal generation is the second largest contributor to Brazil's electrical supply. In 2009, it was recorded at 12%. A thermal power plant is a plant that is steam-driven. Water is heated in order to generate a steam turbine, then the turbine drives an electrical generator. The electrical generator stores the energy that was produced. This is a very efficient process because the steam is condensed and recycled to be used again. Thermal generation, however, emits a high rate of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Although thermal generation is an efficient way to produce electricity, it can be harmful to the environment. The third source of electrical energy in Brazil is nuclear power.
Nuclear energy supplies about 3% of Brazil's electricity. Brazil is home to two nuclear power plants, the 630 megawatt Angra 1 and the 1,350 megawatt Angra 2. A subdivision of Eletrobras, a large electric utilities corporation in Brazil called Eletronuclear, runs both of the nuclear power plants. In 1986, the company started building a new plant called the 1,350 megawatt Angra 3, but construction was never completed. The government decided to resume building the plant in 2008, but construction will not be completed until the year 2015. As a result of the increasing demand for electricity in Brazil, the industry is planning to build at least 4 new nuclear plants to be completed by the year 2030. Although nuclear energy only accounts for 3% of Brazil's electricity today, Eletronuclear's proposals look promising for nuclear power's future as a component of Brazil's electrical industry.
Ethanol is an alcohol fuel derived from plants materials like sugarcane and corn. Brazil is working on growing their production of new biofuels. With Petrobras' new discovery of pre-salt reserves, Brazil is open to a whole new opportunity in drilling for natural gas. With the 15 drills they have made and each of them striking oil, the future in these wells are promising. Although Brazil produces a lot of natural gases, they consume a very small portion at only 7.1%. Most of their production offshore is in the Campos Basin. Petrobras is Brazil's leading natural gas producer. To make transportation of oil more efficient in Brazil, they are building a pipeline called Gasim. It will span from the southeast part of Brazil to the northeast, where the oil is turned back into gas.
Hydroelectricity accounts for 85% of the power for Brazil's electricity. Using the gravitational force of falling water, hydroelectricity is a very low budget and renewable source of energy. Thermal generation of energy is the second most popular form of electricity in Brazil, at 12%. An electric generator is powered by steam, and the steam is condensed back to water where it can be reused. Nuclear energy is Brazil's third most popular form of generating electricity at only 3%. With Brazil owning 2 nuclear plants already, the country plans to build 4 more plants by 2030 due to the demand of electricity. Overall, the country of Brazil is working hard to produce more energy to better the lives of their citizens and to ensure a stable economy.